Hey guys, welcome to TacTalk. Of course, you have your host, Chris Linville with Guns America and Vulcan. My good friend, Andrew Chavaria here with us. And today we're going to talk to an awesome guy that I just met by the name of Hunt, and he's with SWAT Optics. So Andrew, do you want to go ahead and...
Yeah, bro. So, y'all probably seen the episode already roll out with Trevor from Fit Bully Kennels. And
Sure.
I was connecting with Trevor doing some networking, saw a couple videos and posts with you in them, bro. And I was like, man, I got to get that guy on the show. Because not only what we have going on with Vulcan, Chris owning Guns America, then I found out your medical and IT background and stuff, and that's Chris's background. I was like,
Sure.
this is a conversation that can just
just keep going
go
on
all
and
the
on.
places, right? So I was like, man, so I was anxious to meet you. Appreciate you coming on the
thanks,
show.
man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, brother. And then I saw, which was really crazy, Trevor posted he was hanging out with you at the Fort Worth Gun Show. And I was like, dude, we have a booth at the Fort Worth Gun Show, and I didn't see his post till after the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Go figure, man.
So, but I was like, dude, we were there too. So we're at a lot of the same shows and stuff.
I had no idea y'all were even there.
Yeah. So it'll be a cool connection in general off camera.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when I find also just spending a little bit of time with you pre-show, talking about how nerdy you are when it comes to optics and things was I was like, it's gonna be a cool conversation to have.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of where this all
Looking forward to it,
Yeah.
but I think we'll try to not nerd out too damn much, right? And kind of lose our audience here, right? 'Cause we could easily get nerdy, quite nerdy about it. So you sell optics, obviously,
Correct.
SWAT Optics, and the majority of those sales, do they happen at gun shows? You have, at least at the Fort Worth Gun Show, it's a hell of a
It's a hell of
presence,
a crowd.
right?
Yeah, it's a hell of a
Yeah.
presence. But believe it or not, most of our sales comes from online.
Do they?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Almost all of our sales comes from online.
Okay.
And not from Texas.
Okay.
So believe
Yep.
it or not.
Yep.
So I mean, a lot of people from like Florida and
Right.
everywhere.
That makes sense. And is that through SWAToptics.com?
correct,
I'm
yes,
assuming? Okay, cool. Yeah. So that was actually the Fort Worth Gun Show this last weekend was the only time we've ever had a booth at a gun show.
Okay.
The only time,
yeah.
and it was done because my son wanted to make some extra money, and I said, "Well, you got to work for it, right?" And so I was there helping him set up, dial in his setup, and then he's now going to be at other gun shows and stuff.
Okay, good,
So,
man. It's a good presence. There's lots of good people that come in.
Yeah,
Lots
yeah.
of red-blooded, Second Amendment loving Americans.
That's right, man. That's right. And so with SWAT Optics, when we were talking earlier, you got into it because you just love geeking out on reticles, right?
Completely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it, man.
So-
It's
not
much
to be
fun.
mistaken for rectacles.
Rectacles. Yeah. So first question I'd ask then: are you in the mill or the MRAD camp?
I can use.
You can use both, but what do you prefer?
There is a right or wrong answer,
There
by
is.
the way.
But however, so I also can use MOA.
Yep.
So I can go back and forth.
Okay.
And when you're thinking about MOA,
Yep.
that's going to be more of a precise measurement than a mil.
It is.
And a lot of people don't know that.
It is.
So you've got 1/10 of a mil or a quarter MOA.
Yep.
And so anyway, I like both. But I lean towards the mill.
Do you? Okay,
have to,
so
I have to.
that's me too. I tend to go that route, and I prefer to do 3
Good
clicks
man.
over dozens,
It's just-
right?
Yeah. It's just so much simpler. And
Yeah.
one thing I like too, when you get into like a lot of the horror style reticle systems, for example, like, are you familiar with the ACSS reticle
I am.
system?
Yep.
So my friend Dimitri is the guy who invented that, and so and I've used them extensively. And if you've got it, if you understand your drop, which you've got difference in elevation, barometric pressure, there's a lot of different variants, but it gives you a really good idea when you're trying to figure out the drop of something. For example, if you have it set up for your specific caliber
And the actual
elevation, and
exactly, and all the characteristics of that specific
Correct.
round.
That's correct. Yeah, that's
Chris
correct.
actually just did a sniper course, and he said what the full first day was
Well,
math.
Well, yeah, it's too much math for me, man. I'm a run and gun, shoot close type of guy, right? And so all of mine is CQB tight, close in.
Times,
but then all of that math is a lot. And then you have the fact that there's all the math when it comes to drop.
Yes,
right?
correct.
But then wind is just a goddamn art.
Yeah. Well, it depends also too what caliber you're shooting. For example, one of mine, and a lot of people hate it, is the 224 Valkyrie.
Okay.
It does not care about the wind. It just doesn't care. And my 6 millimeter arc, does not care about the wind.
My 6.5 Creed does.
Yeah, 6.5 Creed does. But it hits hard.
Yeah.
So it hits hard. If we go out, for example, 1,200 yards, and you miss your target, I can see your splash with a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yep. Yep.
You're not going to see it with a 224 Valkyrie unless somebody's got a spotting scope down there. He's a little poof.
Yeah.
And so there's pros and cons to both.
That was definitely, it was the first day that I'd done truly long range training, right? And we're shooting 1,000 plus. And at that point is when you start to realize with the valleys and the trees and everything that wind is a true art.
It is.
And how much goes into it.
Yeah, correct.
And then I start thinking about, and I was talking to Andrew about as a night stalker and a crew chief on helos, talking about, okay, you take all of that down here at the surface level.
Yep. Yeah.
And we're shooting across a valley or whatever, and that's one set of challenges. And then you put them in a damn helicopter?
Oh, yeah.
These guys got to hit those shots?
Yeah, no, man.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
Right?
shooting through prop wash.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
It's not for me. Those guys are amazing.
Yeah, that's another level.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool to watch, and it's awesome to observe, and having spent a lot of time with some of these long range shooters and snipers, and having shot out of aircraft and helicopters, it's a totally different animal, totally different beast, right? But I'll tell you, I would much rather do that than run and gun. Because I get tired running. Like, dog, just put me, take me where you want me to shoot.
Yeah, well, I think somebody up at Battle
Elevated
Springs.
position, target
That's
range.
right.
Exactly, quick.
Well, I think Battle Springs, when I was up there at Battle Springs Ranch in that class, I said, this is my experience level. And he said, well, he goes, I'd much rather be the guy that's, 2,000 yards off. And not having to shoot up close. You got a lot more time to make decisions back there.
Exactly.
The whole point of close tactics is to create space to become the sniper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To get the hell away and then
Yeah.
shoot the guy from a mile out,
Yeah.
that's coming at you.
So SWAT Optics, do y'all just deal with your, what optics? Are you going?
We sell everything. We sell a lot of primary arms.
Yep. Okay.
A lot of the guys that are running and gunning, they love Hollow Sun.
Yep.
I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
A little bit, yep.
Okay,
Yep,
yeah.
I run it on some stuff.
Okay, yeah. I mean, when for example, I always had a saying when we were training with my EOTech a long time ago that when the bullets are flying, my EOTech is dying. I love the EOTech, right? Except that the batteries are always dying on it. You got to when we would go out in the field and go training with it. I've got to keep 3 or 4 sets of batteries with me.
Sure.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But I liked it. But if you compare it to Hollow Sun with a 50,000 hour battery life, shake awake technology, night vision compatibility for a lot of them, that's kind of hard to beat.
So I agree. I agree when it comes to battery life, but I wonder about the actual ruggedness of a Hollow Sun compared to my EOTechs.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And that is something to be said for that too. But a lot of them are made out of either titanium or 7075.
Sure.
And they're
You know
tough
what
as
though?
nails.
Back in my day,
Yeah.
we didn't have any of that stuff. It was a dot and a post. I know how to use the manual.
sights.
Yeah, I know how to use the manual transmission of firearms called iron sights. Right,
Those never fail
it's
you.
a
Nobody
lost
knows how to
art,
do it
bro.
anymore.
And people but true talk. People have knocked it before because I put a 45 iron sight on every one of my ARs.
If it works, it works.
I have 45-degree iron sights because optics fail.
Stuff
Well, you
happens.
know,
And if I can just tilt a little bit and I'm still going, I know how to use my iron sights, bro.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I love it, bro.
It's funny you talk about that, Andrew, because for competition, I still shoot irons.
Yeah.
Right.
you do.
And so I'm shooting a falling steel match this Saturday, and when I went to register, there was only going to be 5 of us that were in classes and limited class to still shoot irons.
Yeah.
However, you go look at the carry optics class, and there's 40 people in that class.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. The truth of the matter is, at least with pistol shooting, is red dots are the way of the future. That's
Yeah.
what people are going
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
Right?
oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and there was some kind of study too that and I can't remember the exact statistics of it, but they took so many people that had failed the pistol shooting for the military, U.S. Army, and they of those, when they put a red dot on it, 75% of those people immediately passed.
Wow. Well, and that's interesting interesting data too, and considering the fact that red dot shooting,
Yes.
if you're used to shooting irons, absolutely is an adjustment.
It is,
It-
and
you know?
especially when you look
Yeah.
at the height of a bore.
Yep.
Right, and then I got so used to shooting irons back with my old USP.
Yep.
When I present those irons, I know exactly where those irons are.
Yep.
Well, when I first went to an optic on a pistol, I'm like, hold on.
You're finding the dot, right?
I'm finding the dot, and it was completely, it threw me off
Yeah.
really bad. But there are optics that will, for example, align with your sights,
Right.
So that you won't necessarily need like suppressive high
co-witness.
sights. You can co-witness with it.
Yep.
and-
God, that's ugly. Sorry, I just pulled my phone off and just looked up so when I was in, it was like the sidearm for pistol was a Beretta.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Beretta 9mm, and I was like, I've never seen a Beretta with an optic on it.
Oh, they
So I
make
had to
them-
Google it.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for me.
That optic is ugly. it.
That's terrible.
So yeah.
That's funny, man.
Berettas are ugly guns in general. People don't buy them.
Yeah.
I think the reality is when it comes to red dots on pistol, I just need to bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah.
And just put in the training time to get there.
Yeah.
Right?
But it is going to throw you
But
off.
it's so hard for me to
It's-
go that route when I'm just good with irons.
If you're that
You know,
good with
I've
it,
got-
but if it works, it works.
Yeah, but nah.
If it works, it works.
But from from an EDC perspective for me, right? And we've talked about this before. A lot of times, you know, back before I really got into Glocks and modifying my guns and stuff, I was what can I buy off the shelf, right? So I was a Springfield guy, marketing machine, right? Great marketing towards their products.
They are.
Tactical gun of the year, I think back in 2020 was the XDE 45. So I bought that and I loved it. But then I was like, man, carrying a 45 every day,
Kinda sucks.
It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Added weight.
And it's unnecessary.
Yeah. So I went.
I'm sure I'm pissing people off by
probably,
saying that.
bro.
But yeah,
Like, probably,
somebody's out there going,
somebody's losing their mind right
Say
now.
what
But a
you want.
45
And-
is unnecessary.
And I get it, dude. Like at the
Completely.
same time now, like if I'm carrying a 19, like, okay, yes, a double stack, it's going to weigh the same as a 45. I get it. But here's the thing is I went from the XD, which was shooting irons,
Yep.
or not really irons, but, you know, just traditional sights. And I went and I bought the XDM Mod 2.
Oh, that's sweet.
The 9mm with the red dot on it. And I loved the gun, I love the way it feels. I love the way it shoots.
Yep.
I hated the red dot
Yeah.
from an EDC perspective, just because, and I get it. I understand like where people are like, oh, faster target acquisition, all these things but for me, it was a faster target acquisition with a traditional sight than it was that one. And I think it's just the learning curve.
So that's what I was
It's the
going to argue.
training-
I
it's the
think
training
that comes down to
aspect, right?
training,
Yeah.
right? Because I feel the exact same
Yeah.
way right now
Yeah.
when it comes to pistols and red dots, right?
Yep.
But I realize it's 100% training. I just
Yeah,
don't have the time
100%,
behind it that I
100%.
do thousands of rounds,
Right.
the other way.
So, but again, now it's almost hard to go even buy a gun, even at the gun store, like
That's not cut.
That's not cut,
Yeah.
or doesn't already come with an optic.
Yeah.
Like you look at Glocks, they have the MOS cut.
Yep.
And so people come to me all the time, and it's depending on what they have. And I mean, and I rocket one on my 34, and I was shooting targets over 100 yards away not too long ago with my little, and I don't mean like this big, I'm talking about this big.
Sure.
With over 100 yards away with my little Glock 34.
Yeah.
So, but the one that I put on my Glock 34 is called the 509.
Yep.
It's the ACSS 509. So it has that chevron. And if you have an idea how far away it is, you can, your
judge it.
drop. You know what I mean? You know, you're not going to be able to put the chevron right on it with a 9mm. It's going like this.
Yeah.
And but at the same token, I know that I hold up about 12 inches high of it.
There you go.
I'm going to ping it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then so they make that one for a Glock, and then they make another one that I like a lot is the SES, because a lot of people will come to us, and they don't have suppressor height sights. They've got those Glock sights on there, so I'll slap an SES on there that doesn't require a plate, so it doesn't lift it up any higher.
Yep.
Now, and there's a lot of moms that are coming to us too now. They're worried about what's going to happen with the economy, what's going to happen with break-ins, what's going to happen with crime, so on and so forth. And a lot of this is trending from the economy. Everybody sees.
Listen, Mom, nobody wants your Camry. Okay, you're good.
Yeah. And so, but with this being said, a lot of moms are coming to us. And they're like, hey, I've got this gun. What do I do with it?
Right. You get to
put
the
a
damn
dot on
range
it?
first.
Yeah, well, you got it. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter what really. I mean, if you're going to have an optic, you still have to train with it, right?
Yep.
You got to make sure it's zeroed, and you got to train with it. And if you got irons, you got to do the same.
Yep.
Right. So I don't want to carry a gun that I haven't had 500 rounds there.
Yeah, absolutely. But so many people do. They go to the range once a year, and they're like, I checked that off the list.
Exactly.
What the hell?
Yeah.
So we had a company send us guns. I'm not going to name them out, but they sent us some guns. We went and shot them at the range. And first thing I said after putting about 50 rounds through it or 100 rounds, I think we put 100 rounds through that one. And I said, still not carrying it. I don't feel comfortable with it, right? And it's again, if you've never, and that's one of the biggest things that I can always advise people is, in most big gun ranges, though there might be they're not what we like, right? Tactical guys out there shooting. They're those laned ranges that are in almost every major or city or big area. You can rent firearms there. Go rent a gun. Shoot it.
Find out what you like.
Yeah.
That's
If you don't
exactly
know, find out what's comfortable with you. Find out what you like before you go buy it.
Yeah.
What I think a lot of people ask me that quite often. They know I own Guns America and all this, so they come and say, well, what gun should I buy? you should go shoot a lot of guns.
That's
and decide which one fits your hand best,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because the ergonomics of every gun is different.
Yep.
Exactly.
What works for me and my wife are completely opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pick up a phone a friend, right? Call Andy, call Chris, call somebody. Be like, because I actually have some guys that we're taking to the range next week after Father's Day that were like, hey, we want to go out and just shoot some guns, but we don't have any. But they knew I have.
They know
any.
you
They know I
have.
have guns.
Yeah.
So like I was like, okay, well,
It's a safe bet. I got guns.
Yeah. So I was like, so what do you want to
range? What do
shoot,
you got?
right? Like, what do you want to shoot? And these are guys that have never really shot before, so like, don't be a douche and like take them and be like, oh, y'all have never shot guns before. Let's get behind this Barrett.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't give them a Barrett.
yeah.
Don't give them a
A
Desert
44
Eagle.
mag.
Idiots.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
But you know, we're gonna go out. We're gonna have some fun. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, again, being comfortable. Like I was talking about with the Springfield XDE versus the XDM. The XDE feels way better in my hand, but after shooting it with that red dot, I was like, not really what I'm comfortable carrying. Right?
Yeah.
What I was comfortable with. So again, back to that point. You have to train regardless of the route you're going to, but you have to put rounds downrange.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So I want to get, I think I'd like to have you again because I want to get deep into optics, right? Because
Okay,
there's a
let's do
million freaking ways we can do this thing and what we can get into. But let's start with, let's say we have a new shooter and home defense is what they're interested in. They're probably going to have a pistol. Where would you recommend they start with? Optic wise.
Oh, well, it would depend on the gun.
Yeah.
So it depends on the gun. So say for example, they have an X macro.
Okay.
I would tell them to start with like an X macro.
Okay.
Or X macro, a Glock, a SIG, whatever makes you happy, whatever floats your boat, but you have to train with it. And then I really like for example the EPS carry.
Okay.
It's enclosed.
Yep.
Right. If it's a smaller gun, it's kind of hard sticking a big RMR on there. Right. I like RMRs also.
Yep.
But at the same token, if you put an EPS carry on there with that plate, it will fit right on there.
And it's enclosed optic.
It's enclosed,
So it's
so
not
you
going to
don't
fill
have-
with lint when it's in their waistband and all that crap,
exactly
right?
It's so easy to just wipe off and keep clean.
Yeah.
And they're just tough as nails.
Yeah.
So like some of the other ones that are back when they first came out with the 507.
Yep.
I stuck mine on a M1A SOCOM 16 CQB.
Yep.
I said, hey, you want to carry this because nobody was carrying hollows in the DFW area. And I mean, I saw other stuff in hollows on. I said primary arms, Sig Sauer, AGM.
You do Vortex? Or
No, I don't do Vortex. So that's a whole other story. I'll tell you off the air. Anyway, so I turned around and I said, well, and it had a little pick mount. And I said, okay, so I took 760 rounds of M80. 760 rounds of M80. And on the M1A SOCOM, it has a front rail.
Yep.
And with that little pick mount, it actually co-witnessed perfectly with my iron sights.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, okay, so let me zero it. I zeroed it. It's just a little 2 MOA dot, with the one that I stuck on there. And I took 5 shot groups. Okay, great. It's not a tack driver. The M1A SOCOM is not made for stacking holes, but I could tell that it was zero. It's close, and it's M80, right? Which isn't inherently accurate either. Anyway, so I turned around, I zeroed it. Okay, great. I dropped in 760 rounds in about 2 hours to this thing. I mean, it was so hot you could see the smoke coming off of this thing. And I had mags fully loaded, just ready to go. And anyway, I let it cool down, right? Because I couldn't even touch it anymore, right? And then I shot my group.
Shout out Triple Gambit Gloves.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I let it cool down, and I reshot my zero, and it held.
Okay.
So then I did a show called the Hunters Extravaganza Show. And I had a board in the back, and I would throw it up against the board over and over and over for people to see how tough this thing is. And then I would drop it in water, and so on and so forth, right? I had a video of me putting them in the dishwasher, and they just kept working.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, all right, then I'll carry this thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Fair.
So and literally, I was running around with some guys the other day, some Marines on their land, and literally on my side mount is a 507. Now, would I prefer a 509 that's enclosed? Yes, but this is the same 507 I've been beating up all these years. It's scratched to hell anyway.
Yeah.
And I could turn around and just flip it, bang, so.
Yeah.
Solid,
Makes sense.
dude.
That's awesome. Yeah. So and what is that? That's a $300 optic that somebody could put. It's not a lot. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not in the grand scheme.
Correct.
Right? Of your life.
Correct.
We're going to be watching this episode, though, down the road. Like, years from now, we're gonna be like $300, not a lot of money, and then somebody's gonna write an article back when $300 and now 3.2 billion. Like
with inflation. Yeah, exactly. That's true.
hilarious.
But
Right
yeah,
on.
so yeah, I that's something I would start with the gun, and then I always think about the use case of this firearm.
Yeah,
sure.
So if it's a competition, okay, great, it's a competition gun. Well, you know what? Let's stick an SRO on there.
Sure.
Let's stick a Trijicon SRO on there.
Right.
Fantastic.
Huge window.
Yeah, huge window.
Huge window.
You know, and
Little ugly.
yeah,
a little ugly,
yeah, a little
round,
ugly.
big round. With,
Yeah,
you know, but
it's ugly. But if it's a competition gun,
Yeah.
so be it. If
You're trying to win.
You're trying to win.
Yep.
Is it going to pass a drop test? No.
Right.
It's not. Is an RMR going to pass a drop test? Yes. Is it going to always work? Yes. Is it going to get lint down the inside of it and keep pain to keep clean? Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And so it all depends on really.
But you're also at an RMR, you're paying $600-700
That's correct.
compared to
Yeah.
$3 on the EPS, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
correct. Big
it's all a
difference.
balance, right?
Right.
It's all a balance in figuring out what not only works for your budget, but also works for your mission.
Correct.
Your mission.
Exactly.
And so
it's like without like, 'cause so for me, like on my side, right, like even beyond a little bit of the tactic side, and again, I know we're kind of getting close to time, but I want to at some point even have the conversation. So my big focus right now is I take combat wounded vets on hunts,
Yeah.
right? And Chris knows this. Chris got to see it for the first time a couple of weeks back. Nathan Mitchell, Mitchell Defense, made me a fully carbon fiber 308 to take veterans hunting with.
I like that.
And,
That's
I mean,
lightweight.
it's super light.
Yeah.
But now I defeat the purpose with super light when I'm putting a big heavy optic on there, right? So then we
true.
talk, okay, now what's going to be the best option for me to use optic wise? Lightweight. Again, going to get banged around because we do stock and shoot hunts.
Correct.
We don't just get in the deer blind.
Yeah.
so you really hunt.
Yeah, so
you
really
actually hunt.
Yeah,
You don't
we
Texas
actually
hunt.
No, we don't
Okay.
Texas hunt. We do stock and shoots. But
Don't
a lot of times,
don't get pissed.
Yeah, I
it's
know,
okay.
right? Calm down.
If you
Yeah.
deer hunt in Texas.
and then the other side of that too is like a lot of times I'm letting these combat wounded guys carry the rifle, so it's going to get banged probably more than most because sometimes they're amputees.
Yep.
Things to that effect, and then so again, where do we go? Like, what do we look for in an optic?
How
in
far
that
away are you
regard?
shooting?
So max distance, I'm not letting these guys shoot anything beyond 300 yards really.
Okay.
Which
so,
is still a long shot for people that don't train regularly.
Fair.
Right?
True. Yeah. True.
But they are vets.
Yes.
So yeah.
Right.
So I mean, and then what caliber?
So 308, right?
308.
That's the
How many inch
308.
barrel?
What's that?
How many inch
It's a 16-inch barrel.
16-inch barrel, 308. I mean, you could do it with a 1 to 10 on there.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't. I mean, unless you're trying to ear hole something.
Yep.
And you want to like really zoom in. I mean.
I mean, for
Or
instance,
2.5 by 10, a 1 by 10. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you would really need any more than that.
yeah,
So I mean, I'm normally like 6 power at 600 yards.
Yep.
right.
So
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't really need too much.
Yeah, as an example, for tactical games, shoot out to 600 yards or so.
Yep.
I'm shooting a 223 out 600 yards, and I'm shooting a 1 to 10 Vortex Razor
Yeah.
HD,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
LVPO. And that's an example also, and we should talk about that at some
Yep.
point,
Yeah.
is LVPOs versus straight up red dots on tactical rifles.
Yeah.
Right?
And that
and-
that gets a whole other
Yeah,
community
yeah.
people like pissed off on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what we want, though.
Yeah,
Stay
exactly.
mad.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you got. And you,
We're not the government.
Yeah. But you got one side of them that says, "Oh, well, I just need red dots all day long." Well, what about positive ID?
So that's to me the point of, am I more comfortable? Would I prefer in, for sure, CQB or even most run and gun type situations? Am I more comfortable with my EOTech red dots? Yeah. I love them.
Yeah.
I can shoot.
My
I can drive
515
them.
still works.
Right. I can drive them at 300 yards, no problem with
Yeah.
that optic. We're okay, right? Do I need when we get out past 300 more? Yeah. So
Oh,
the LVPO
definitely.
comes into play, right? Do I love my LVPO as much close
Not as
stuff?
much, no.
Not as much as the red dot.
Yeah.
But to your point, I can use it more to zoom in and see and positive identify that that's a phone in his hand, not a gun,
That's a big difference,
right?
That's a
That
big
matters
difference.
in a tactical scenario.
Or maybe looking at somebody in the bush down there.
Right. Right.
Maybe it's zooming in and looking through the brush and seeing it. Is there a flash that just came off of that
Yep.
optic down there?
It's as much your binocular
Yeah, correct.
as it is
Yeah.
your optic to
Well, that's
shoot with.
important in hunting too, right? Because you're like, okay, that's 7 inches because it's missing one on this side, not an 8.
Yeah.
It's not or 7 point, not an 8 point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the difference between an 11 point and a 12 point buck, right there.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
big
right.
difference, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should do a separate talk where it's just all about hunting, right?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah,
I like
because
it.
that's a whole thing, and that's y'all's world, not my world.
Yep.
I don't know much about it.
Well, I was in both worlds. Just changed the game.
True,
Yeah.
fair.
Hunting different game.
Depends on what you're hunting.
It's different game.
Fair. I am going on an elk hunt in October, so I have a lot to learn as far as
awesome.
optics go. And when we're going, the guide actually said how comfortable are you shooting? How far out? And I said 800 yards for me, and he said, "Oh, we could shoot a lot of things. I can put you on some great stuff at that point." As compared to people that are comfortable inside of 300 yards, and you're not going to get as good a opportunities.
My friend Taylor, I went out, and he didn't know I could shoot, and he had no idea. This is before I had it, and so I stuck an optic in a mounted it at the range. We're outside, and it's a 300 wind, and mounted it. Brought my little torque wrench out there, fired it, 5-shot 0, went up, and I'm hitting targets, and we're right out almost at a grand. We're at 800 yards on a 5-inch gong, and 15-mile-an-hour wind gust that day.
Yep.
I had no ballistics chart, no mil.dot master, never looked it up in Steerlock Pro to figure out the drop, never did any of this kind of stuff. And so anyway, Taylor's downrange, and there's a flight time.
Yep.
And to me, there's like, I'll bring it next time. I wrote this little thing about how everything comes into sync, how you're breathing, how everything all comes into sync all at once, right? And it's that moment it's that moment of clarity right after you pull the trigger that everything around you ceases to exist.
That's right.
Yep.
And so at Taylor, I fired the round. Boom. Taylor says, "I didn't hear anything." And then it was at that moment, it went, dong.
There it is.
And he goes, "Oh."
There's certainly a delay, right?
Yeah, there's certainly a delay there.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty awesome. You can generally, if you're glassing them, see them hit that far before you hear it.
Yeah.
Right. I get that long range is fun,
It's so much fun.
but man,
It's hard,
It was
but
a lot
it's
of
so much fun.
thinking.
Yeah.
It was a lot of thinking. Let me just run and shoot things.
Yeah.
I can be dumb and shoot at that point.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
you know
also
what?
if you know
I can be
your
fat
drop.
and shoot at that point
There you
when
go.
it's a distance, okay?
Yeah.
So
That's why you were on Overwatch in our last video,
bro, we're not gonna
with
talk
that
about
Mitchell
man.
gun.
With
that
that
308.
Mitchell, but that was such a climb, dog.
It was fun, man.
Where'd you go?
So we shoot a lot at TDSA, just south of town. Do you ever shoot there? Texas Defensive Shooting Academy.
No, I've never been there.
Okay, so it's a members only range, incredible place, and we were training and doing a shooting with Ron Holmes of Riker USA and then Jeff Reeves of Triple Gambit, and they have a 40-foot tower.
Yeah.
And in the video, you'll see Overwatch, the drones come around, the drone shots. He's up there on Overwatch as we're down running and gunning below.
I love it.
It was dope. It was dope, and it was actually David, our production guy's fault, because he was like, "It would just be really cool if we got shots of somebody up there on Overwatch." And I'm like, "Cool, I don't mind doing that." In my mind, there's a staircase in this tower going to the top.
Yeah, no, there's a
bro,
ladder.
it's a straight up ladder.
There's a ladder,
Oh, really?
and Len Baxley that owns the place, he just told his guy, like, "Oh, just put him about this tall."
Yeah.
Well, they're just out of reach for Andrew.
So I was literally
The
for
rungs.
40 feet doing pull-ups. Yeah. So it was solid.
funny,
Yeah,
man.
but it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great.
it was cool.
So, yep.
That's
so,
awesome, man.
all right, all time. If you are going on an elk hunt and you're shooting 500-600 yards or so, 308 or something like that, what's your favorite reticle? Let's see who we can fire up.
Is it zeroed for, do I have time to zero it for the correct
Yeah.
elevation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, certainly don't buy the gun and the bullets on the way to the
okay,
hunt
good, okay, good.
like 90% of people do.
Okay, yeah. Have it zero before I go,
Yeah.
and then adjust for elevation
There you
when
go.
I get there.
You're
That's
not.
right.
You mean you're not showing up with like a Savage Arms 243?
Dude, I've talked to a whole bunch of guides that say that.
Yeah.
That like people will
Oh,
literally
that's
buy
true.
the
Yeah.
rifle on the way to the hunt, have never shot it,
Yep.
let alone the ammo
Yep.
choice, and
Yeah.
just show up and expect to be successful.
So outside of the vet side of what we're doing with combat wounded guys, like that was that was a part for me where I was like, dude, if I'm taking somebody hunting on these big game ranches, I don't want you to miss.
Right.
Like, and I don't trust what you're bringing because I've never shot it. I don't want you to miss. So
Right.
like that was important to me.
Right.
So again,
Yeah.
I'm going to further Chris's question before you answer. Like I want all things into consideration. I want durability, weight, ruggedness,
Correct.
like not
And
just
you know that
Yep.
you know that the different types of glass and
Yep.
the weight and the ruggedness
Yep.
are two
Yep.
contrary forces.
Yep. They are.
So now, as far as the reticle system, I like something specified for
Okay.
that caliber. So whether I'm using 168s, 175s,
Yep.
right? And so they make Primary Arms makes this one called an Apollo,
Okay.
I could measure 18 inches. It
Nice.
depends on the target, but I can also measure a man's height.
Love that.
So, of course, it's the elk hunting, which is a little bit different. But being able to measure 18 inches, right, and understanding where my 5 mile an hour, where my 10 mile an hour wind is, and having my windage markers.
Yep.
If I'm zeroed for the correct distance for that round,
Yep.
in that environment,
Yep.
that's
the one.
You ought to be
That's-
good.
that-
So the Apollo reticle.
Yeah, the Apollo. Now they make Apollo in 6.5 Creedmoor.
Okay, cool.
Right, and they make an Apollo for 308.
Nice. We'll talk. We'll
Yeah,
figure
sounds
it out.
good. Yeah. Well, we'll just go shooting because
That's right. Let's go.
Boom.
We got 'em
Yeah,
all.
let's go.
Let's
Yeah,
go
let's
shooting.
do it. Let's do it. I'm in.
Yeah.
Shooting, I'm in. Unlike that guy we had on before us that
Very
doesn't
big-
shoot.
Yeah.
And Trevor's never shot before.
Oh, I'm gonna fix
Or
that.
doesn't
Yeah,
shoot. That's what we said too. We're like, oh, we got this.
Like,
I'm
this
gonna
isn't
get my
okay.
MP5 and say, here,
That's
let's
right.
go.
Full auto, let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Right on, guys. Well, thank you very much
Thanks a
Hunt,
lot,
for
man.
being
Yeah,
here
appreciate
today.
it, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
thanks
me
for being on here, brother.
Hey, thanks a lot,
Yeah,
man.
bro.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
it, man.
Well, guys, I'm really enjoying this conversation, and unfortunately, we don't have enough time to keep on going today. But we'll have Hunt on some more, and we'll talk some more about reticles in general, overall optics for specific scenarios. I think we can get into.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but then I just want to say again, thank you for spending your time with us. We know you're busy, you have a lot going on, and also want to mention that, of course, if you need any cases for your firearms or magnetic gun mounts, you can go to vulcanarms.com, or anything firearm related, whether you want to just pick up an actual firearm, optics, or any accessories. Of course, you can go to gunsamerica.com as well. Andrew?
Guys, again, like I always say, you can spend your time anywhere. You can spend 30 minutes anywhere a day with us, but you chose to spend